Right, welcome back as we continue with more pertinent chats now as Human Rights Month commemorations wrap. And we approach Freedom Month commemorations, really highlighting our nation's hard-fought struggle for democracy. We continue to explore concepts relating to the rights of citizens, the promotion of human dignity, and just achieving social justice, whilst navigating the challenges that also come with that. And so for more, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, Gift of the Givers founder, joins us virtually, perhaps to expand further. Dr. Imtiaz, good morning. Thank you for making time to chat with us here on the SABC at this hour.
Good morning, Lisa. Thank you for the invite.
So as a country, you know, South Africa reflecting 31 years into our democracy, what are your thoughts? I mean, on paper, our constitution alone has been hailed as one of the most progressive in the world. What are you observing 31 years later?
We've had good years, we've had challenging years, and we've had bad years. You know, transition from a liberation movement into a fully fledged government, having the values of the older people who understood what the struggle was all about, then getting in newer people who are more, you know, sometimes I question them, well, not sometimes, most of the time I question them, have you come into government to serve the people or serve yourself? And unfortunately, we're getting a larger component of people more interested in serving themselves than serving the people. But whilst that is taking place, you know, over the last few years, there's been a lot of concern. Well, over the last 8 to 10 years, there have been a lot of concern about corruption, state capture, country going the wrong way, money being lost. And then, of course, we've had the COVID in between. You can't blame anybody for that. We've had the floods of 2019, the storms that affected Cyclone Idai, that affected Mozambique, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and parts of Durban. Civil unrest of 2021, you can't blame any government for that. 50 billion rand lost. Then came the huge floods of 2022. You know, April, again, huge loss. So those are budgets the government could not cater for, could not plan for. And even if they planned for, there wasn't means of capturing it, of saving that money. So yes, we've had unfortunate incidences, and of course the level of corruption. But in spite of everything, with the load shedding and everything that's happened, we seem to be a resilient lot. You know, South Africans, even in government, you know, people say government is corrupt. We need to clear the narrative. Government is not corrupt. There are corrupt people in government, like there are corrupt people in every aspect of society. The good, unfortunately, not many of the good speak up. You know, the bad put pressure and the good ones keep quiet. But over the last 6 months to a year, I've seen the good ones starting to speak up, come forward. I'll give you 2 examples.
Okay.
People from who provinces, I won't say which provinces, came to us and said, look, we'd like you to help us spend money. We don't want to discuss it in our offices. We don't want to discuss it among others. Money disappears. You guys know how to spend money, how to use it correctly, and how to get maximum benefit for the people and the community. When you start hearing stories like that, you are very encouraged when you speak to the heads of the SIU, the Hawks, the NPA, and the public protector. You can see the progress being made where there's willingness to stop people looting the public office in their tracks. So yes, that's a big problem for us. But on the same side, whilst we have that problem, people are afraid what's going to happen in South Africa. You can see the tourists pouring into our country. Yeah. That's a huge form of revenue. It's also a sign of a belief in the country. And the last point is, when you see the corporates starting to increase their CSI spend, it's telling you we are here to stay. We're not going anywhere.
Dr. Imtiaz, thank you for those opening remarks, because amidst these challenges, there obviously also, you know, there's that need for bold, decisive, ethical leadership. And so thank you for also speaking to those positive attributes that have come to the fore over the past few years in our democratic dispensation. I want to look at the shifting geopolitical landscape as well, because we've seen in recent months or weeks that foreign policy has come to the fore now more than ever, perhaps even protecting the sovereignty of our own state too. With South Africa at the helm of hosting G20 this year, Freedom Month is also approaching in just a few days. How do we maintain and protect SA Inc. in these changing times?
Well, the president put it very clearly a few days ago.
Yeah.
He said our policy is based on human rights and based on Ubuntu. That's who we are. South Africans are based on Ubuntu and human rights. Why? We have a couple of 100 years history of what went wrong. We've got, you know, and we've shown that in spite of what went wrong, the nation and the leaders have the capacity to change things around non-violently, where you can fix things in our government and in our system and our continent and throughout the world by people who are committed to compassion, to kindness, to rational behavior, to ethical leadership, to values and spirituality. That's what's happening in our country. And, you know, when we see that, It's a standard that we're setting for the whole world to follow. And as long as we stick by those principles, that we will follow Ubuntu and that we will follow human rights. And human rights is a huge concept. It covers everything from water to fighting to food to housing to electricity, to freedom of speech. You have democracies in inverted commas where you say something and you object against certain issues, you're locked up, you're arrested, like what's happening in America right now. In many areas, you can't speak your mind because if it doesn't suit thinking, you get locked up. In South Africa, post-94, nobody gets locked up. You can say what you want about the president, you can swear, you can shout. There are people in this country who have no respect, have arrogance, who speak with such disdain and such racist overtones. But nobody arrests them, nobody sanctions them, nobody threatens them, nobody, takes them away. You're free in this country. There is no greater liberation than freedom of expression. And that's because that protects your dignity. It protects you as a human being. You don't feel afraid. Yes, there are challenges of hunger and water and those kind of things. But as long as we stick to what the president has outlined several times, and the ANC as a whole has said several times, Ubuntu and human rights is the key principle of South Africa. And nobody in the world is going to tell us to do that.
And so, Dr. Imtiaz, we have to conclude. How do we begin to tell that better story about ourselves, about our nation, and about humanity at large, then, as we conclude this Human Rights Month?
We've lived it. We've shown it. From the time of Mandela. Mandela came out as a leader from jail, not vindictive, not angry, not vengeful. In 1995, first of all, he brought in a government of national unity and included all the parties. And then he wore Francois Pienaar's shirt in 95 to show there's unity between the race groups.
Yeah.
And then, we sent out teams to help reconciliation throughout the world. Tumisani Komalo in the United Nations told them, please don't attack Iraq. This is not the way to go forward. He made a strong case against the Gulf War. We tried to intervene in Sudan and South Sudan. We took Israel to the ICJ. We stood out, in human values.
Yeah.
We told the West, the European nations, you ill-treat Africa when it comes to vaccines moving forward. We're not going to accept this kind of behavior. And of course, we're telling the Americans, mind your own business, don't tell us how to run our foreign policy. Congratulations to the government.
Dr. Imtiaz, we ran out of time, but I just want to thank you for joining us and for those wise words. We'll leave that conversation there. Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, Gift to the Givers, founder, joining us as we wrap Human Rights Month.